You and the other old folks are being let go today. We don't need you, haha. That's what the new branch manager told me just a few days after she started working at the bank where I had been for many years. I simply smiled and thought, just wait and see. The next day, to everyone's shock, $700 million worth of accounts were suddenly closed. And that was just the beginning of many unexpected problems the bank would soon face. My name is Nancy Johnson. I've worked at this neighborhood bank since I graduated from community college. I'm 55 years old. I started at the front desk, but now I let the younger, more energetic staff handle it. I only step in when a customer specifically asks for me. Otherwise, I stay in the background, ready to help my coworkers when needed. Watching them learn and grow is like raising my own kids. Speaking of family, my husband Bob and I have been married for 32 years. He's an engineer at an electrical company and 2 years older than me. He's honest, hates dishonesty, and always gives me good advice. He listens to me, even when I say silly things. We have 2 grown children who are married and independent now, so Bob and I enjoy a peaceful life together. Recently, our bank got a new branch manager. Her name is Elizabeth Anderson, and she's only 40 years old, probably the youngest branch manager we've had in a long time. At the morning meeting, she introduced herself with confidence. I'm going to revitalize this branch and make it the best in the country. I need everyone's help, so let's work hard. She spoke so boldly that I immediately knew she was the type of person I would struggle to get along with. After the meeting, the assistant manager gave her a tour of the bank, introducing her to the staff. I was cleaning the windows in the waiting area when they approached me. Can I have a word, Nancy? Of course. What's up? I replied with a smile. This is Elizabeth, our new branch manager, the assistant manager said. Elizabeth, this is Nancy Johnson, our most experienced employee. She's been with us for 35 years. If you have any questions, she's the one to ask. She can solve just about anything. As the assistant manager spoke, Elizabeth gave me a long, assessing look, as if she were judging my worth. Nice to meet you, I said. I might not be as amazing as the assistant manager says, but I do my best every day. Nice to meet you too, Elizabeth replied. Then, with a smirk, she added, You seem well suited for window cleaning. I was shocked. Elizabeth chuckled and said, Oh, I thought you were the janitor. If I need anything, I'll ask you, Nancy. Then she walked away with the assistant manager. I had never been treated like that before. How rude. I turned to a younger colleague who was tidying up some magazines. Do I look like a janitor? She smiled. Of course not. You have the vibe of a motherly figure, but you definitely look like an experienced banker. Motherly? I wasn't sure if that was a compliment, but maybe she had a point. I did fuss over the younger staff like they were my kids. Later, the break room was buzzing with gossip about Elizabeth. No one seemed to like her, but maybe she really was as competent as she claimed. I decided to wait and see before making up my mind. That evening, I told my husband Bob about her. He frowned. She sounds awful. Just stay away from her as much as you can. The next morning, the assistant manager announced he'd be gone for 4 days on a business trip. As soon as he left, Elizabeth sat down at her desk with a newspaper. Suddenly, she called me over. I'm reading the newspaper here. I blinked, confused. Ah, okay, she sighed. Oh, did we get it? Make me some coffee. Seriously? I was stunned but nodded. Sure, just a moment. As I made her coffee in the break room, I overheard a male colleague venting. She just arrived and already told me my performance last month was terrible. It was just bad timing. My deals got delayed, but they went through this month. She didn't even listen. I clenched my teeth. Yeah, what's with this new manager? Every morning after that, she ordered me to bring her coffee as soon as she started reading the newspaper. It was infuriating. Then, on the day before the assistant manager was due to return, Elizabeth approached me again. Nancy, can we talk? I nodded. Sure. What is it? What exactly is your job here? She asked bluntly. I hesitated. I mainly assist at the counter. Is that all? Well, I also help clean and check the parking lot. She smirked. So you're not really doing anything important, are you? I was taken aback. Excuse me? We're bringing in cleaning robots. That means your job will be unnecessary, right? I stared at her. What are you trying to say? She leaned in. I think you should resign. We don't need unproductive, salary-stealing old-timers like you. You're fired, she grinned. You can leave today. We don't need you, haha. I realized I had no reason to stay. Fine. If I'm being fired, I accept it. She looked pleased. Great, you don't have to come in tomorrow. I nodded, packed up my things, and left. As much as I hated how it happened, I also felt strangely free. Elizabeth thought I was useless. She had no idea what was coming next. I couldn't help but smile. Nancy Smith is here to see you. A colleague at the reception called out. After working in customer service for over 30 years, I had built strong relationships with many clients. Smith, in particular, had trusted me and used our bank for more than 20 years. Thank you, I'll be right there, I replied. This was my last day, and I wished I had more time to say proper goodbyes. It was a big regret. Still, I wanted to serve my final client with all my heart. After finishing my work, I went to the locker room to say goodbye to my colleagues. They were shocked by my sudden resignation and upset with the manager. We rely on Nancy so much. That woman has no idea what she's done. One of them said angrily. Exactly, it's not just us. Many longtime customers depend on her too, another added. Their concern touched me. I'm worried about the customers too, I admitted. If anyone asks about me, please explain what happened. Of course we will, they promised. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to call me, I said before walking out of the bank for the last time. The next day, while drinking tea at home, I got a message from a young bank clerk. Smith came in this morning and closed all his accounts. I was shocked. He was the only customer I had the chance to say goodbye to, and it seemed he was disappointed by my resignation. Smith wasn't just any client, he was the president of a well-known local trading company. He had nearly $1 billion in assets, with $700 million deposited in our bank. With such a huge withdrawal, our branch would take a serious financial hit. When Elizabeth, the new branch manager, heard about it, she was speechless. What? A customer left because Nancy's gone, she asked in disbelief. Yes, someone confirmed. He said there's no reason to keep his money here if Nancy isn't around. I wish I could have seen the look on her face. A week passed, and I started getting calls from my former colleagues. More and more customers were closing their accounts. Word had spread about my forced resignation, and many longtime clients no longer trusted the bank. The employees couldn't convince them to stay. Each day, dozens of customers would ask about me, then return the next day to close their accounts. Elizabeth, once so confident, was now pale with fear. If things continued like this, the branch might not survive. Then headquarters launched an investigation. In just a little over a week, the total amount of lost accounts had exceeded $2 billion. The assistant manager was furious. Why did you fire Nancy on your own? She had years of experience and strong relationships with our clients. How are you going to fix this mess? Then Michael, the division manager from headquarters, arrived. It's been a while. Branch manager Anderson. Looks like you're struggling. What happened? He asked. Elizabeth, clearly flustered, greeted him nervously. Michael didn't hold back. I heard you let go of Nancy, who had been here for many years. Were you unaware of her reputation? Elizabeth looked shocked. Really? But she seemed so ordinary. Michael frowned. Her appearance doesn't matter. Nancy was hardworking, reliable, and deeply trusted by our clients. She was even recognized at company meetings multiple times. Didn't you know that? Elizabeth was speechless. A hard lesson for Elizabeth. Michael sighed and spoke firmly. Elizabeth, this mess is because of your poor decisions. You need to take responsibility. How could you not know that Nancy was just helping around and doing light cleaning? Why didn't you inform me before firing her? Elizabeth, flustered, tried to defend herself, but the assistant manager quickly cut her off. Don't blame me. Judging Nancy as incompetent after just a few days is ridiculous. You fired her while I was away. If you had asked me, I would have never allowed it. Elizabeth stood there, speechless, as Michael continued. We've reviewed your work history. You forced customers into contracts, and there have been many complaints from both staff and clients at your previous branches. Our bank values trust and sincerity. Your methods don't align with that, And firing a loyal, hardworking employee like Nancy proves you aren't fit to lead. His words left Elizabeth shaken. Elizabeth, I don't see a future for you at this bank, he concluded before leaving. A colleague later told me that Elizabeth collapsed in shock after hearing those words. During my years at the bank, many clients, including CEOs, business owners, and major investors, had personally requested my service for large transactions. Their trust in me was the reason they kept their accounts at our branch. By firing me without understanding my role, Elizabeth had driven away millions in deposits. This outcome was predictable, yet she had acted recklessly. As a result, Elizabeth was removed from her position and sent to a small, remote branch as a teller, the very role she had looked down on, but she didn't change her behavior. Staff avoided her, and customers didn't trust her, leaving her counter mostly empty. Eventually, there was talk of demoting her to a contract worker. If only she had humbled herself, things might have turned out differently. Sometime later, Michael and the assistant manager visited my home. They bowed deeply and apologized. We are truly sorry for what happened. Elizabeth was wrong, and we take responsibility. Nancy, our branch needs you. Please consider coming back, the assistant manager pleaded. That night, I discussed it with Bob. He said, if they're asking so sincerely, and if you feel it's the right thing to do, maybe you should return. Since Elizabeth was gone and they genuinely wanted me back, I decided to rejoin the bank. The next day, I called my former clients, explaining the situation. Fortunately, most of them returned, restoring the bank's stability. The assistant manager was so relieved that he bowed and cried in gratitude. The branch, which was at risk of shutting down, was saved. With Elizabeth gone, the assistant manager was promoted to branch manager. He might be a bit shy, but he listens to his employees and values teamwork. I'll do my best to support him and my colleagues. This experience reminded me how important trust is. Today, I continue working hard at the bank, grateful for the relationships I've built.